To have you with us here on the South African Morning. Now, as part of the State of the Nation address last night, excuse me, the President spoke about trying to curb the power outages. Government opening up the energy market. Energy reforms announced in the State of the Nation address are going to essentially try and end Eskom's monopoly by allowing private players to trade and resell electricity. IPPs, if you will, is one of the acronyms that gets thrown around. But is it going to make much of a difference? Let's get reaction this morning. Joining us from UJ is UJ Physics Professor, Professor Hartmut Winkler. Prof, good morning to you. Thanks very much for your time. So did you hear what you wanted to hear in the speech last night?
To some degree, I heard what I expected to see. What I would have liked to have seen, though, is some sort of attempt to close the gap in as far as delays that have been there in the rollout of, especially of the solar and wind plants. We are 2 years behind schedule as far as those are concerned, and that is affecting the total power supply. You mentioned that last year there was an announcement that a whole lot of new plants would be constructed. Yes, that's right. But those are, as I mentioned, are 2 years behind. He also said that the new call for more such plants was going to be coming out soon. Now, last year he said those were going to come out in August last year. So here again, we are more than 6 months behind. So I would have liked to have seen a greater sense of urgency. Also, everything that he mentioned regarding these the new developments are actually in the government plan, which was published 2.5 years ago. So that is nothing new. It's really a case of implementing this. And also, I think what I would have liked to have heard is some sort of attempt to review the plan, because things are happening so fast in the energy space that you literally need to change your plan and review it and look at it again every 2 years or so.
Yeah, Prof, I'm going to ask you about those changes in a moment, if you don't mind, about what is changing so quickly. Maybe you can just give us a sense of what you think is the standout change in a moment, though. Can I ask you about this, though? We're talking about the ending of Eskom's monopoly, and that's bringing in independent players, private suppliers, private sellers. It's all good and well on paper. The problem is, and I'm going to use the term from last night, a lot of red tape that has to be cut. That seems to be the problem.
Yes, well, if I got something out of his talk last night, is that this is something he's really concerned about. And I think it's quite a unique development that in the presidency he's actually appointed a team to look at cutting down red tape. And red tape also affects the energy space. If there's one achievement he has had or governments had in the last year, is that they've managed to cut this limit where you need special permission from the regulator from 1 megawatt up to 100. Now, that I can see that's already made a difference, because he mentioned that the mining sector is, I don't know if, the exact time frame, but they are in the process of building 4 megawatts of additional power, just privately on their own properties. Now that's quite large. I think that's much bigger than we would have anticipated about 5 years ago. So I think we're seeing a situation in this country, and I think it's occurring not just in the mining sector, where those who can afford are trying to go their own way, which in a sense one might say, yes, well, that's frees up the market and so on. But in something like energy, you do need some sort of a structure, some sort of planning. You don't want a situation where everybody just does as they please. So I think he's opening up the space. We'll have to see exactly what's in that in this. Presume a white paper is going to be coming out now. He said they approved it at cabinet on Wednesday. Yeah. So it's going to go out for public comment and so on. I'd like to see the exact details, but I think what is in there, from what I gather, is some idea exactly how the unbundling of Eskom is going to work, and to what extent they're going to be allowing in extra players, and to what extent those new entities are going to be able to play a role. So I don't quite see a situation where it's going to be dozens of electricity companies competing against each other, but I think we're probably moving towards some sort of opening and move away from the Eskom monopoly. Yeah, certainly the whole tone of his message last night was that he saw this as a problem.
Yeah, the Eskom monopoly, a big issue as well. There's a lot to discuss in power, but I'm glad to hear at least it sounds like it's moving in the right direction. We wait for this white paper, Prof. I'm sure we're going to get you back on when we get that white paper. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, Professor Hartmut Winkler from the University of Johannesburg, a physics professor. I always love when I get to speak to people who are far more intelligent than I am about these things, and it's not difficult to find people more intelligent than me to talk about these things. So good news as far as energy reforms are concerned in the country.